We have a trader who spent 3 years losing 99% of his money. Someone made $1.5 million in just a day, and we have a trader who showed a screenshot of his losses to an officer and he let him park in the handicap spot. And we are starting off with a huge loss by usual distribution 9, who spent 3 years just to lose 99.92% of his money, or $43,336.11, and is left with just $33.17. Looking at his chart, we can see that he even had a great start with a decent gain, but like usual that gain just lures you into options and you end up quickly losing all of it. He discovered investing in WallStreetBets in March of 2020 and he caught the wave of volatility and got up to 80k playing ridiculously priced Tesla, Amazon and SPY options at the time. He thought he was a grand wizard of investing and decided that around 400% returns in a few months wasn't enough. Time to get rich or die trying. So he took a couple of big hits in summer 2020 which his mental and he chased it ever since. Before this loss he was employed, was making okay money and his life was okay, and after he's unemployed, has negative bank balance and his life is and after his last deposit bounced, his Robinhood's balance dropped to negative $1,000. Feels bad and hopefully he somehow recovers. Next we have a huge gain by 7-figure bet on Tesla, who made a bet on regional banks rebound. On all of his positions combined he's up by $826,563 and that's without gains in a certain smaller cap bank which he had to crop out. He ended the day up $1.5 million and his biggest dollar gain was Western Alliance Bank Corporation up $900,000. His biggest percentage was PACW, which he closed at $6 and had purchased at around $3.50. That was the only thing he sold as he didn't want to hold it over the weekend as he sees it as the most risky part of the bet, but he might buy back next week depending on how things look. And he bought into these stocks because he read all 3 earnings reports and they all seem to have deposits stabilized after the panic a few months ago. And while all of them have challenges with owning low yield assets and the liquidity concerns that come with not being able to exit those positions, he thinks the new lending facility will solve that, although at a cost of reduced margins for a while. Also, if you do this long enough, you learn to recognize when people are just panicking and selling, which is what he saw yesterday. Lastly, and yeah, he knows this is a little out there, but he knows Zions well and spent 30 years as a Mormon. Don't forget who founded the bank and whose namesake it still holds. The Mormon Church is the richest on the planet, with $150 billion stock and cash hoard, and while they may not have anything to do with the bank today, it still is somewhat tied to them, if in name only, and they could find enough money in their couch cushions to bail Zions out if needed. So bottom line is, he thinks both Zions and Western Alliance survive this and double in value from here. PACW was just a gamble for fun and he had far less money in it. He looked at it like he would a week to expiration out of the money call and assumed it would go to zero. He just got lucky it didn't and he got out. Otherwise he's had a lot of 10 baggers and a lot of 99% losses in his day. He's 43 now and has been trading off and on for fun since he was in his mid-20s. He lost $1 million in an hour back in his mid-20s on Constellation Energy, and he'll never forget that day as he was laying on the floor of his office and the room was just white. His biggest lost opportunity was when he bought 5,000 shares of Tesla at $187 a few years back before any splits and sold for less than $1 million profit, which if he held for a few more months would have made him over $30 million. Honestly, the times he's made the most money have been when there is panic like we saw this week in the regional banks. Humans are emotional creatures and that can be an opportunity. He has a very high risk tolerance. Half of the money you see on this trade is borrowed, so a 50% drop and he's at zero if he didn't meet the margin calls. And he earned all of this money one investment at a time, starting in his 20s and risking everything he had over and over with more and more leverage. That's in real estate and not trading. He also has $400 million in debt, so he could still lose everything. And that's because his dad taught him when he was a kid that if you owe the bank $1 million they own you, but if you owe back $100 million you own them and are calling the shots, especially if it's a smaller bank. Breaking it down, it's about $250 million in recourse debt from community banks and about $100 $150 million in non-recourse CMBS, and believe it or not, he's actually pretty low leveraged, maybe 40 to 50% depending on the method of valuation. Anyway, next up we have a huge loss by Surrey M8. Last week he showed this screenshot to an officer and he let him park in the handicap spot. On his all-time chart we can see that he had a slow beginning until his account went straight up, and in 2021 it peaked at 230k, but then it started dropping almost straight down, and now he's down by around 80% or $90,005.72, and he's down by so much because of just one stock. Microvast Holdings, and its stock price history looks almost identical to his all-time chart, and this loss isn't just from a single buy and hold. There were also countless additional attempts to average down on the same stock. That is how he brought his average down from $11.20 to $2.70. Across all of his accounts he owns 50,000 shares, 11,000 warrants, and at this moment 456 calls, most of which are $1.50 strike price and expire in 2025. And after going through his account I found out why he's all in on this company, and to save you time I'm going to sum it up. They are a quickly expanding USA battery manufacturer with a small market cap. He estimates they'll do more than $400 million in revenue next year, and the company got a $200 million grant to build a separator factory in partnership with GM. So he's going to post again in 2025 and thinks that by that time he'll be back to even. Next we have a huge gain by JChan14, who had a fun day seeing the world burn, and he won't be eating Wendy's tonight. As we can see on various options, he's up by quite a lot, with the largest gain of 3,655% on two Western Alliance Bank Corporation put options, with a striking price at $24.50 and an expiration date on May the 5th. Looking at this stock chart, we can see that after it dropped to its lowest point on Thursday, it went up by almost 100% until the end of Friday, so his puts would have lost a lot of money. Luckily though, he sold one contract when he posted and is still holding one. Otherwise he doesn't do anything but buy puts and calls. He doesn't sell any options or does any advanced credit spread strats. He also doesn't put in 250k on one play either, like other regards. Anyway, next we have a huge loss by Conscious Evening 57, who's down 160k on SoFi YOLO so far. His account is worth around $1.2 million and he's down by around 11% because he bought 165,000 shares of SoFi and 360 call options on SoFi with a striking price at $5 and $7 and expiration date on January the 17th of 2025. He owns a lot more calls, but I'm not going to go through all of them, and I think he started buying into SoFi 7 months ago. He has become more and more of a believer in its long-term potential over the last year or so, and in return sold off more of other positions to add more here. Next we have another huge loss by 21 Dimitri, who's just going to ignore that message. He got a potential regulation T call for $89,720.26. Apparently he's been losing money on Tesla TQQQ and Ford calls, and if they really want their money he's going to make them work for it. Next up we have a trader by the name of Squirrel Megaphone who dropped $200 in his account on April the 10th, and over the last month he somehow turned it into $5,500 on 0-day sale expiry SPX options. But today he bought calls. More specifically, he bought 0-day sale expiry SPX calls with a striking price at $4,100. Consequently, he's down by $5,222.67, but to be fair, his account is worth more than $300, which is still around a 50% gain from his starting account balance. Anyway, next we have a huge loss by AZJ11, who just lost 100% or $20,522.61 because he bought First Republic Bank shares at an average price of $25.51, but at least he sees this as an expensive lesson. And last but not least, trader by the name of Upcloud9 also lost 100% or $13,137.30 thanks to First Republic Bank. He's been working at First Republic for 7 years now, and it has been an amazing time aside from the last month and a half, of course. He started taking advantage of ESPP his last 2 years there for that 15% discount, or at least he thought he was taking advantage until the eagle came 100%. He knows this isn't the biggest loss here, but it's still his biggest loss and biggest lesson learned in the stock market. Reading all your guys' posts and memes these last few weeks has been making him and his co-workers laugh. Now it's time for you guys to laugh at him while he gets ready for Chase to came one less time. He invests in only VOO and did some in FRC because he worked there and has seen the growth throughout the years. He figured it would keep growing but less and learned. He also got a co-worker who at one point had over 500k market value in FRC. She's been there a long time and is a grandma. And if you want to see how this trader turned just $875 into $545,000, click on the video that just popped up, and if that is not enough, smash the subscribe button as it will help me out a lot in reaching my goal of 600 subscribers. If you have any questions or recommendations, leave them in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.